On December 25, 2024, Flight K3-7654 took off with 178 souls aboard. Minutes later, a devastating plane crash shook the world. But behind this tragedy lies an untold story of heroism. Captain Ivan's final act of sacrifice changed everything. Drop a comment and share where you're joining us from. If stories like this resonate with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss our next inspiring journey. The hum of engines and chatter of passengers filled the air at Almaty International Airport on December 25, 2024. Outside, a thin layer of frost clung to the tarmac, reflecting the soft glow of terminal lights. Flight K3-7654 of Caspian Airlines stood ready, its silver fuselage gleaming against the pale morning sky. The aircraft was set to depart for Grozny, Russia, with 178 passengers and crew on board. Captain Ivan Korolev, a seasoned pilot with decades of experience, conducted his pre-flight checks with meticulous care. Beside him, First Officer Alexei Kalinin mirrored his focus, double-checking instruments and communication systems. Flight attendant Hannah Leaf moved through the cabin with practiced ease, offering warm smiles as she assisted passengers settling into their seats. In the passenger cabin, a tapestry of emotions unfolded. Parents hushed restless children, business travelers tapped away on laptops, and holidaymakers shared quiet conversations. Each person carried a unique story, a destination awaiting them. The overhead announcements crackled as final preparations were made. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard Flight K3-7654. We're expecting clear skies and smooth travel to Grozny today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight. The crew's professionalism exuded confidence, their calm demeanor easing any flickers of anxiety among the passengers. Yet, beneath Ivan's composed exterior was a flicker of introspection. This was one of his final flights before retirement, and the weight of his long career sat heavily on his shoulders. As the final boarding call echoed through the cabin and the jet bridge was pulled away, the aircraft doors sealed with a firm hiss. Engines roared to life, and Flight K3-7654 began taxiing toward the runway, an ordinary beginning to a journey that would soon descend into chaos. Ivan Korolev grew up in a modest Soviet-era apartment block on the outskirts of Moscow. His fascination with flight began during weekend outings with his father to the local airfield, where the roar of jet engines and the sight of planes cutting across the sky filled him with awe. While his peers played soccer in the streets, Ivan devoured aviation books borrowed from the small community library, sketching airplanes in the margins of his school notebooks. His father, a disciplined railway engineer, instilled in him a strong work ethic, often reminding Ivan that precision and responsibility were non-negotiable virtues. His mother, a schoolteacher, balanced this stern upbringing with warmth and encouragement, often saying, "If your dreams are in the sky, then build your wings on the ground." Ivan carried those words with him through every challenge. At home, the dynamic between Ivan and his siblings shaped his character. Dmitry, his younger brother, was impulsive and often in trouble, contrasting Ivan's calm and measured nature. Lena, the youngest, looked up to Ivan as a role model, finding comfort in his steady presence. Determined to chase his dream, Ivan applied to Moscow's Aeronautical Academy. Despite the rigorous entrance exams and fierce competition, he earned his place, balancing intense coursework with part-time jobs to support himself. Ivan displayed resilience and focus. Sleepless nights spent studying flight mechanics and long hours in the simulator paid off when he graduated among the top students in his class. Ivan earned his wings with quiet pride, fully aware that his journey had only just begun. The young boy who once sketched airplanes in his schoolbooks was now ready to command them in the sky. Ivan Korolev's journey with Caspian Airlines began humbly as a co-pilot on regional routes. His natural aptitude for aviation, combined with his relentless dedication, quickly earned him the trust of senior captains. Over the decades, Ivan logged an impressive 15,000 flight hours, traversing international skies and commanding some of the most challenging routes in the airline's network. His reputation for precision flying and his composed demeanor in high-pressure situations became the hallmark of his career. Colleagues often remarked that Ivan could inspire confidence with just a steady glance and a calm voice over the intercom. Throughout his career, Ivan faced numerous challenges that tested his resilience and expertise. On one occasion, while navigating through a violent electrical storm over the Caspian Sea, the aircraft's primary navigation system failed. With limited visibility and instruments compromised, Ivan relied on his deep understanding of flight dynamics and sheer instinct to guide the plane to safety. His quick decision-making and unshakable focus saved hundreds of lives that day. Ivan's influence extended beyond the cockpit. Younger pilots often sought his advice, drawn to his approachable nature and wealth of experience. He conducted pre-flight briefings with clarity and always emphasized teamwork, safety, and humility. Ivan wasn't just a captain, he was a mentor, a role model, and a steady hand guiding both aircraft and the people within them. As Captain Ivan Korolev prepared for what was to be one of his final flights before retirement, a deep sense of introspection filled him. Sitting in the quiet of the cockpit before passengers boarded, he allowed himself a rare moment to reflect on his decades in the sky. Every button, every gauge, every flicker of a control light felt familiar, an extension of himself. The hum of the engines had become a comforting sound, one he would soon leave behind. Ivan had always viewed flying not merely as a career but as a sacred responsibility. His motivation stemmed from a profound respect for the lives entrusted to him on every journey. Each takeoff symbolized hope, every landing a mission accomplished. But beneath his composed exterior, Ivan carried the weight of unspoken fears. The fear of failure, the fear of letting down the people who trusted him, and the fear that even his expertise might one day meet forces beyond his control. Yet, amid these fears was an unwavering sense of purpose. He found meaning in the precision of his work, in the fleeting moments of silence above the clouds, and in the gratitude of passengers safely delivered to their destinations. Retirement loomed on the horizon, and though it promised rest, Ivan couldn't shake the feeling that the sky still had something left to ask of him. In the days leading up to his final flights, Ivan Korolev cherished every moment with his family. A quiet farewell dinner at home became a treasured memory. His wife, Olga, prepared his favorite dish, and their children, now grown, gathered around the table. Ivan spoke little of his upcoming flight but shared stories from his early days in aviation, his voice carrying both nostalgia and pride. Before leaving for the airport, Olga embraced him tightly, whispering, "Come back to me, Vanya." Her words lingered in his mind long after he boarded the aircraft. On board, Ivan's relationship with his crew was equally meaningful. First Officer Alexei Kalmin wasn't just a colleague, he was like a younger brother. Over the years, they had shared countless hours in the cockpit, navigating storms, mechanical failures, and moments of quiet camaraderie above the clouds. Ivan trusted Alexei implicitly, knowing that in moments of crisis, their bond would serve as an unshakable foundation. Flight attendant Hannah Leave and the rest of the cabin crew respected Ivan deeply. He made it a point to greet every crew member personally before each flight, often sharing a word of encouragement or a light-hearted joke. In Ivan's eyes, every member of his team was essential, and their trust in him was something he valued above all else. The engines of Flight K-3-7654 roared to life as the aircraft began its steady ascent into the pale morning sky above Baku. From the cockpit, Captain Ivan Korolev and First Officer Alexei Kalinin observed the sprawling city below gradually fade into a patchwork of distant lights and open fields. The horizon stretched endlessly, bathed in hues of soft gold and blue. Inside the cabin, passengers settled into their seats, some gazing out the windows while others flipped through magazines or adjusted their seatbelts. Flight attendants moved gracefully down the aisles, offering warm smiles and ensuring safety protocols were followed. Ivan's calm voice echoed over the intercom, assuring passengers of smooth skies ahead and wishing them a pleasant flight. For now, everything was routine. An hour into the flight, the calm routine was shattered by a sudden jolt that reverberated through the aircraft. Warning alarms pierced the cockpit, and red indicators flared across the control panel. Captain Ivan Korolev's steady hands gripped the controls as he and First Officer Alexei Kalinin scanned the blinking instruments, trying to diagnose the issue. Hydraulic pressure dropping, Alexei reported, his voice tight but controlled. The aircraft trembled again, and Ivan's experienced eyes darted between the altimeter and the horizon. Passengers felt the shift, a collective gasp spreading through the cabin as overhead bins rattled. The crisis had begun. The aircraft jolted violently again, and the overhead lights flickered. A chorus of gasps and cries erupted from the cabin as passengers gripped armrests and clutched loved ones. A child wailed, his mother holding him tightly, whispering reassurances neither of them fully believed. Others frantically checked their seatbelts, while some passengers began to pray aloud. In the midst of the chaos, flight attendant Hannah Leaves steadied herself against a seat back, her training overriding her fear. Her voice, firm but calming, cut through the rising panic. Everyone, please remain seated. Keep your seatbelts fastened and stay calm. We are trained for situations like this, and the captain is in control. Her words brought fleeting moments of calm, but the fear in the passengers' eyes was undeniable. Hannah moved swiftly down the aisle, assisting where she could, tightening seatbelts, helping an elderly man with his oxygen mask, and offering brief but steady eye contact with passengers frozen in fear. Behind her composed exterior, Hannah's hands trembled, and her heart raced. Yet, she pushed forward, driven by duty and a fierce determination to protect those entrusted to her care. For the passengers, her presence became an anchor in the storm of uncertainty. In the cockpit, Captain Ivan Korolev and First Officer Alexei Kalinin worked in seamless coordination, their voices steady despite the blaring alarms and flashing warning lights. Ivan's eyes remained locked on the malfunctioning instrument panel while Alexei focused on stabilizing the aircraft's altitude. "We've lost partial hydraulic control," Alexei said, his voice sharp with focus. "Switch to alternate systems. Keep her steady," Ivan commanded, his tone firm and resolute. Down in the cabin, Hannah Leave relayed updates from the cockpit to the passengers, her voice clear and unwavering. "The pilots are managing the situation. Please stay calm and follow crew instructions." Other flight attendants moved swiftly, ensuring everyone remained seated and braced for possible turbulence. Their synchronized actions reflected countless hours of training and a deep trust in one another. Despite the mounting pressure, there was no hesitation in Ivan's decisions. His voice, calm and precise, guided Alexei through every adjustment. The two men shared an unspoken understanding, their trust forged through years of flying together. In the face of uncertainty, the crew operated as one cohesive unit, their professionalism serving as the final line of defense against the chaos threatening to consume the flight. The cockpit was a storm of flashing warning lights and relentless alarms. Captain Ivan Korolev's hands gripped the yoke tightly, his knuckles white as he fought to keep the aircraft steady. Control surfaces are barely responding, Alexei Kalinin reported, sweat beading on his forehead. Ivan's voice remained calm but firm. Focus on maintaining altitude. Override the faulty systems manually if needed. Outside the cockpit windows, dark clouds loomed as turbulence rocked the plane. Every adjustment required immense focus and precision, each second bringing them closer to a critical point of no return. Time was slipping away. The aircraft lurched violently as the control systems continued to fail. Captain Ivan Korolev's voice cut through the chaos in the cockpit. Alexei, prepare for manual override. We'll have to bring her down ourselves. Alexei nodded, sweat dripping down his temple as his hands worked furiously over the controls. The altimeter spun erratically as the plane descended through turbulent clouds. Lightning illuminated the sky in harsh flashes, revealing the jagged outline of mountains below. The engines sputtered, their mechanical groans echoing through the fuselage. We need to find a clearing. We don't have much time, Ivan said, his voice steady despite the growing impossibility of their task. The two pilots fought against gravity, wind shear, and failing hydraulics, attempting to guide the massive aircraft away from populated areas. But the odds were insurmountable. The plane dipped sharply, and alarms blared in frantic unison. Passengers screamed as oxygen masks dropped and cabin lights flickered. Ivan's voice crackled over the intercom one last time. This is your captain. I can't do it anymore. Losing control now. The final moments were a blur, a deafening roar, the screech of metal tearing, and a bone-jarring impact as the aircraft collided with the earth. Flames erupted from the mangled fuselage as smoke and debris scattered across the crash site. In the moments after impact, there was silence, a haunting stillness broken only by the crackle of fire and faint cries for help. Amid the wreckage, the remains of Flight K3-7654 lay twisted and smoldering under the gray sky. The harrowing journey had reached its tragic end, leaving behind echoes of bravery, desperation, and loss. The early dawn light crept across the crash site near Almaty, Kazakhstan, as rescue teams scrambled over the smoldering wreckage of Flight K3-7654. The air was thick with smoke, and the sharp scent of burning fuel lingered. Emergency services, firefighters, and medics worked tirelessly, their reflective vests glowing against the dim gray sky. Helicopters hovered overhead, their searchlights slicing through the haze to locate survivors. Amid twisted metal and scattered debris, pockets of life remained. Survivors, dazed and trembling, were pulled from the wreckage. Some bore severe injuries, broken limbs, burns, and deep lacerations, while others sat motionless, their eyes wide with shock, staring into nothingness. The medics set up makeshift triage stations on site, stabilizing the critically injured before rushing them to nearby hospitals. For the survivors, the reality of their escape began to set in. Some wept openly, clutching the hands of rescuers, while others sat in stunned silence, unable to process the devastation around them. A mother cradled her child, whispering prayers of gratitude. A young man, his face streaked with blood and ash, wandered aimlessly, calling out for his missing friend. Among the first responders was Elena, a seasoned paramedic who had witnessed tragedy before but never on such a scale. Her gloved hands moved swiftly, administering aid and offering whispered reassurances to the injured. Yet, behind her professional mask, Elena fought to keep her composure. The sight of lifeless bodies, the echo of faint cries from beneath the wreckage, and the overwhelming sense of loss weighed heavily on her. At one point, Elena knelt beside a survivor, an elderly woman who clutched a family photograph. "You're safe now," Elena said softly, her voice trembling despite her effort to remain steady. But in her mind, questions lingered. How many more were still trapped? How many lives had been lost? The sun began to rise fully over the crash site, illuminating a scene of both devastation and resilience. For the survivors and the brave responders like Elena, the journey of healing had only just begun. Hannah Lee's bravery during the final moments of Flight K3-7654 became a symbol of selflessness. In the chaos of the cabin, she remained steadfast, guiding passengers, securing seatbelts, and offering words of comfort even as fear gripped her. Survivors recalled her final instructions with trembling voices, describing her as a beacon of calm in the storm. At home, Hannah's mother clutched a framed photo of her daughter, her eyes filled with tears of both pride and profound loss. "She was always strong," her mother whispered to reporters. "She was always thinking of others." Viktor Ivanov, a college student, survived the crash with minor injuries, but his heart remained heavy with uncertainty. His close friend, Hassan Ivanov, had been seated next to him. In the aftermath, Viktor searched every hospital, every survivor's list, clinging to hope. "He was right there beside me," Viktor said. And then, he wasn't. The weight of survivors' guilt pressed down on him as days passed without answers. Nadia Baramova sat by her phone, her hands trembling as she refreshed news updates. Her younger sister, Jasmine Bisloyev, had been on the flight. Every ring of her phone jolted her heart. Hours felt like days as she waited for a call that might bring relief or confirm her worst fear. For Elena, the paramedic who had braved the wreckage to save lives, the trauma lingered long after the rescue efforts ended. In the days following the crash, she was haunted by the faces of the injured and the silence of those she couldn't save. Simple sounds, the distant hum of an airplane engine or the crackle of a radio, would trigger vivid flashbacks. Despite her stoic exterior, Elena began to withdraw from her colleagues and family. Nightmares kept her awake, and exhaustion weighed her down. It was only through the insistence of a close friend that she began attending counseling sessions. In the quiet of a therapist's office, Elena slowly unpacked the emotional burden she carried. Group therapy sessions with other first responders became a lifeline, reminding her that healing, much like rescue, was a collective effort. The emotional echoes of Flight K3-7654 would ripple through the lives of survivors, families, and rescuers for years to come, each person carrying their own fragment of the tragedy. In the aftermath of the Flight K3-7654 tragedy, Azerbaijan declared a national day of mourning. Flags were flown at half-mast, and moments of silence were observed in schools, workplaces, and government offices. Azerbaijan's leaders demanded transparency and accountability from Russia, insisting on a thorough investigation into the crash's causes. The loss was felt deeply across the nation, and public vigils brought citizens together in collective grief. In Moscow, President Sergei Petrov addressed the nation in a somber televised statement. "We extend our deepest condolences to the victims and their families. This tragedy is a reminder of our responsibility to ensure the safety of every passenger." The Kremlin promised full cooperation with international investigators while urging patience until the official findings were released. However, frustration simmered among the public, with many demanding answers and swift justice. Kazakhstan, where the crash occurred, became the center of the investigation. Kazakh authorities coordinated with aviation experts from Azerbaijan and Russia, securing the crash site, collecting black box data, and analyzing debris. Their cooperation was praised internationally, and their swift action in the immediate aftermath played a crucial role in preserving evidence. Memorial services were held across Azerbaijan, Russia, and Kazakhstan to honor the victims of Flight K3-7654. Families gathered in tearful ceremonies, clutching photographs of their loved ones. At one such service, tributes were paid to Captain Ivan Korolev and First Officer Alexei Kalinin, whose bravery in the cockpit likely saved additional lives. At Baku International Airport, a permanent memorial was unveiled, a sleek stone monument engraved with the names of every passenger and crew member. Visitors left flowers, candles, and handwritten notes at its base. Gone, but never forgotten, read one inscription. In addition to physical memorials, a scholarship fund was established in the names of Ivan Korolev and Alexei Kalinin, aimed at supporting aspiring pilots in Azerbaijan. Annual commemorative events were planned to ensure that the memory of Flight K3-7654 and its courageous crew would endure. The tragedy left scars on nations, but it also sparked unity, remembrance, and a renewed commitment to aviation safety. The echoes of this loss would continue to shape policy, memory, and human connection for years to come. For Ivan Korolev's family, life became a slow, painful journey through grief. Olga Koroleva, his devoted wife, found herself navigating a world without her husband, a man whose calm presence had anchored their home. Their children struggled to reconcile their father's heroic final moments with the gaping absence left behind. Olga became a quiet advocate for transparency in the crash investigation, attending press conferences and collaborating with survivor groups to demand accountability. The families of other victims leaned on each other for support. Grief counseling centers were established with funding from international relief organizations, providing a safe space for those affected to process their loss. The aviation community, deeply moved by the tragedy, stepped in with scholarships, financial aid, and outreach programs designed to support families left in the wake of the disaster. Memorial events brought people together, where shared stories and quiet tears built bridges of understanding and collective healing. The crash of Flight K3-7654 sparked critical discussions around aviation safety, leading to tangible reforms. Regulatory agencies introduced stricter protocols for equipment maintenance and emergency preparedness. Pilots underwent enhanced crisis simulation training, ensuring they were better equipped to handle unforeseen emergencies. In memory of Ivan Korolev and Alexei Kalinin, aviation schools introduced leadership training programs, emphasizing the importance of calm decision-making under pressure. Their story became a case study in crisis management, taught to future generations of pilots. Beyond the aviation industry, the tragedy left a mark on local communities. Vigils turned into annual remembrance events, and neighborhoods around Baku and Almaty fostered closer connections. People who had once been strangers became lifelong friends, united by shared loss and resilience. Ivan Korolev's legacy endured not only in the skies he once commanded but also in the lives he touched, from his family to the colleagues who looked up to him and the countless passengers who had trusted him with their lives. The aftermath of the tragedy became a testament to human strength, reminding the world that even in moments of profound loss, hope and unity could still take flight. Captain Ivan Korolev's final moments were a testament to his unwavering dedication and courage. Amidst failing systems, blaring alarms, and an unrelenting descent, Ivan remained steadfast in his efforts to protect every soul on board Flight K3-7654. His calm demeanor under unimaginable pressure was not just a reflection of his skill as a pilot but also of his profound humanity. Ivan's actions have since become an enduring symbol of heroism, inspiring pilots, flight crews, and even ordinary individuals to act selflessly in times of crisis. The story of Ivan Korolev transcends aviation. It serves as a powerful reminder of the weight of responsibility carried by those entrusted with others' lives. Flight academies now share his story as an example of leadership under pressure. And his legacy lives on in every pilot who prepares for takeoff with a sense of duty and care. The tragedy of Flight K3-7654 carries with it themes of sacrifice, courage, and love, not only from Captain Ivan but from the entire crew. The passengers who supported one another, and the first responders who braved the wreckage. In moments of profound loss, humanity's resilience shines brightest. This tragedy is not just a story of loss but also a call to action. Aviation safety must remain an uncompromising priority. And international cooperation is essential in ensuring such events are prevented in the future. Every lesson learned from this disaster must serve as a building block for a safer sky. Captain Ivan Korolev's legacy reminds us that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it speaks calmly into a radio, guiding others even in the face of the impossible. And in that quiet bravery, heroes are born.
What would you do in Captain Ivan's final moments? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let us know. Would you have made the same sacrifice for 178 souls? Share your thoughts in this story with others. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.